Jacqueline holds her bachelor's degree in liberal arts with a focus area on diverse leadership and financial services from DePaul University. She also holds several series of securities registrations in addition. She is a lively individual who has some great tidbits for us today. And so we're very happy to have her. Please welcome Jacqueline Campbell.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So excited to be here on this beautiful, was a little gloomy in my neck of the woods. I actually come live and direct from Detroit, Michigan, but so excited to be here with you, Shonda. Thank you so much to you, to Delta Sigma Theta, as well as the Cincinnati chapter. Excited to be here tonight as we talk about, really the pathway to creating wealth. And what I want to do is I'm so glad that you showed that video. And I thought that that was a really great way to sort of give a nice teaser into our conversation that we're going to have this evening. So for those of you that have not seen that particular Netflix special, I will tell you hands down, it's about 19 minutes or so, give or take. It's called Explained, the Wealth Gap Explained. And I will tell you, it's absolutely dynamic as it relates to truly explaining what took place and what is still, frankly, something that we need to pay attention to, especially now as we start to see a demand in housing, whether it be the housing that we're seeing, the seller's market that we're seeing, the interest rates that we're seeing right now, just a lot of wonderful lessons. But I want to start by really sharing a story that came out of that particular Netflix documentary. So Cory Booker, who you saw highlighted there. Interestingly enough, his father, he shares a story about his father who was trying to purchase a home. And not only trying to purchase a home, but purchase it in a high value neighborhood. Why? Because he wanted to have access to not only paying into the future equity of that home so that naturally his family could have access to generational wealth, but he had a vision. He had a vision for his son, Cory Booker, to be able to leverage some of that equity, right? The value of the growth of the property, to be able to send him off to college so that he could be the Cory Booker that we all know today. However, what you don't know, what wasn't shared in the little clip that was shared in the video, and I want to share it, is that unfortunately, because they found out he was a Black family, that his father was Black, they figured out ways to let them know that unfortunately there were no houses, quote unquote, available in those neighborhoods, and shifted them to different neighborhoods that had lower value. Well, his father was smart enough to know something seemed a little fishy. So they set up a sting operation where they brought in a civil rights group, happened to be some beautiful white allies that said, no, something smells fishy. We're going to go in there. We're going to figure out why these houses all of a sudden always end up off the market when a Black family wants to buy in. So they decided to make an offer. And ironically, the offer was accepted for the white family. So it got to the closing table, and then guess what happens? Cory Booker's family shows up with their attorney ready to close, and the agent almost lost his mind. He said, wait a minute, what happened to the other family? It's like, sorry, we're here actually to purchase this home. And so he said, you can't purchase this home, and literally stuck a dog on him. Like literally there was a dog, and said, you cannot purchase this home. If you do, my business is going to fail. This is what the agent said. He said that his business would fail and that the value of the properties in the neighborhood would go down, and begged Cory Booker's family not to purchase that home. Well, that wasn't going to happen. Okay. So naturally, Cory Booker's family won that battle. They got into that neighborhood. And here we are, here telling the story that, again, what they were able to do, unfortunately, many of us probably would have walked and said, forget it. Right. But no, they saw the bigger picture. And that's really where I wanted to start by sharing a little bit about that story, because I find that to be super dynamic as to the fight that Black individuals in that era had, just to get into decent neighborhoods with decent values, to have a decent education for their children, but yet were marginalized, unfortunately. And as we know, as we look through history, right, redlining was taking place. So even if we couldn't get into the great neighborhoods, we were put into neighborhoods that didn't have the value and were charged extraordinary interest rates, thus furthering that racial wealth gap. And so that, again, continued to exasperate the problem and continue to widen the wealth gap. And so today, really what I wanted to focus on is, I love that story about home ownership because they fought for that and they got in there. And what ultimately did that do for that family? It did a few things, right? It allowed them to not only provide a college education, but when you further listen to the story, it provided retirement income and it provided a legacy that's now going to be passed on for generation after generation. But that started by making the decision to be an owner, right? And not a borrower, right? And so that's what's really important as we think about how we're going to drive, the pathway of creating wealth and how we're going to further reduce this wealth gap is truly taking the time to understand and become educated, which is why Cory Booker's father won that battle. He knew where the areas were that were creating nice equity. He knew how to have an attorney involved. So he surrounded himself with wise counsel. So number one, he was educated. Number two, he surrounded himself with wise counsel. And then I would say three, and the most important part of this story is that he moved forward and he executed no matter what. He implemented the strategy. Many of us get the education, we get the counsel, but do we stop there? Do we actually go and execute? So he executed, which is why then he was able to reap the benefit of the college education, the retirement income, and the passing on the legacy. So that was one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I brought up as a byproduct of the story that we just heard. I would say another thing that I want to share, especially as we consider the current state of the economy. Let's fast forward. Many, as we think about, where things were back in the 60s, and here we are in 2021, I thought it would be very important for us to share some very interesting statistics. So right now, as we all probably know, hopefully if we're following, the economy, just basic stats, we know that right now interest rates are at all-time lows, 100-year lows to be exact. I believe you can get a 30-year at less than 2%. I mean, we've never seen interest rates this low in history. We're also seeing homes sell. I mean, inventory is at its lowest. We can't even get enough builders to go out and build homes fast enough based on where we stand right now. We also understand that the job market is right now in demand. There are so many jobs, well-paying jobs in demand right now, but yet a lack of skilled workers available to go and get these jobs. Many of them six-figure jobs on the shelf waiting. So again, all of this is starting to build up the business case as to what we can do, the solution behind now driving and softening this wealth gap. Right? We have low interest rates. We have a demand in jobs. We have housing flying off the shelves. We also have inflation. As we know, all of that is a driver of inflation. And we've been seeing just last week when we saw the stock market take a bit of a dip, it was because inflation numbers came out, right? People are spending more money now than they've ever spent, right? The stimulus money is truly in action. But my question is, what side of the balance sheet is that stimulus money going to? Okay, is it purchasing more things that are going to cause us more debt, or is it pushing things on the side of the balance sheet that's going to increase our asset and our potential to be able to grow and create generational wealth? That's the real mystery right now and what we're seeing in the spending. And I would say also what we're also seeing is two other things. We're seeing, again, that discretionary spending going up. We're seeing profits going up. So we're seeing a lot of really interesting positive news as it relates to the economy. But yet, when you look at how that is impacting Black America, we are sitting here at the same levels that we were in 1960 as it relates to home ownership. We're sitting here where interest rates are at their all-time lows, where we can get literally cheap money right now and borrow at literally, as I think about when I bought my first home, my interest rate was 7.5%. And we can now get this at 500 basis points lower or 5% lower, but yet Black America, as is at their all-time lows, is homeowners right now, when we can become homeowners at very cheap rates. So as we think about this racial wealth gap, I really want to just really pause and talk about what it means to set that foundation. And many of us, 2/3 of America, created their wealth first by being homeowners. And we have a time right now that in history, if you went back to the 80s, and again, I was still a little puppy in the 80s, I wasn't buying homes back then. But from my understanding, in the 80s to buy a home, woo, it was in the double digits to be able to get access to a mortgage, to be able to borrow money. Many of us couldn't afford it. We were just like, forget about it, right? But thank God for our ancestors that had homes, because my grandmother and my parents both were homeowners, and I thank God that they taught me some of those legacy lessons, that I like to call it, that, you know, they saved up enough and worked that overtime to make sure that hey, look, if we couldn't afford that mortgage, we were able to buy that home, hopefully in cash, or be able to use our family to come together and buy that home as a collaborative. Nowadays, we have access to cheap lending, but yet Black America owns 44%, where white America is at 74% home ownership. That's the same level we were at in 1960. So that's the call to action. The call to action right now is we've got to wake up and get, number one, educated. We've got to educate ourselves. I sit here, I'm in my home here in Michigan. My best friend is actually to the right of me. She's amazing. And I only bring her up as we wrap up this conversation. I'm going to open it up for Q&A, because her and I bought our first home together when we were in our early 20s. We were in Chicago. It was 2004. The housing market, interestingly enough, was on fire back then, the same way it's on fire today. Interesting how history repeats itself. But yet interest rates were starting to come down, not as cheap as they were today. As I told you, my rate was 7.5, and we thought that was amazing. And so we went out and we bought a home at $167,000, South Side Chicago, 2-flat, 7.5%. Our mortgage was $1,500. We thought we were winning the game. 2 years later, sold that same house, $275,000. Hello, right? Two little young 20-year-old tots walked away after 2 years. And because we know the tax law, we held it 2 years so that we could get our capital gains and not have to pay taxes on it. Come on, get educated up in this place, okay? And so we took that money from the sale of that, and that allowed us the pathway to now start becoming investors. Take a portion of that, now buy our next home, right? So the pathway to wealth started with becoming educated around home ownership. What it meant, we didn't go to the table by ourselves. We hired an attorney, an agent. We had our insurance person there. Again, we're not having to do this by ourselves. Get surrounded with wise counsel. But I would say again, finally, what we did was we went ahead and we executed. We did not let the naysayers tell us that we were too young to be homeowners, that we didn't make enough money to be homeowners, that we didn't have the right credit score to be homeowners. We took the time to get educated. And if we didn't have the right credit score, which, I'm just going to keep it real, y'all. I wasn't always really good with this thing. I had one of them blockbuster bills on my credit report. Anybody ever have a blockbuster bill? You forgot to return that video. And then those jerks put that little thing on your thing as a collection. I said, I can't believe I have a $5.55 collection on my credit report, and that's going to stop me from being a homeowner. The devil is a liar. So anyway, I say that to say we took the time to build our credit, to get that credit score where it needed to be, because there was nothing that was going to stop us from getting access to the American dream, which started with that home ownership. So I'll pause there because we're in such a time. It's funny how history is repeating itself. We're actually in a much, I wish I was 25 again because interest rates are a lot cheaper. We would have got a whole lot more return back then had we had the type of interest rate environment we have today. But let me just say right now, honestly, if I were to wrap this up, I don't want to keep having this conversation about the wealth gap. We're in such a time and place right now in history where we have access to dynamic people, resources, and really the interest rate environment, and the fact that because of laws and things that have taken place, there is no excuse. It's time to take action and to implement. And so thank you for bringing these type of programs together so we can get this information out to our communities, so we can truly make sure that we're executing at the right time. And now is the time. So with that, I'm going to pause and open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Jacqueline. We actually have a question in the chat. And basically you mentioned about the tax law that allow you to avoid taxes. Can you elaborate a little more about that? Are you on mute?
One second, let me unmute you.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Gotta love Zoom. It said you cannot get unmuted. I'm like, I can't. That's the devil is a lie. You will unmute me. So no, thank you so much. And so let me be very clear. I always like to tease and say I will never avoid taxes. Let me put that back out there for my friends at the IR and the beautiful S. We don't avoid taxes, but we are very clear about strategizing and making sure that there are opportunities that when you follow the rules will work for you. One of the rules is that when you are a homeowner and you have a home that you're selling for a capital gain, in that case, my best friend and I sold our primary residence, very clear, not investment property, right? But primary residence for a gain. In that case, we bought it for one price. We put capital improvements in that then steps up what they call the cost basis. And then anything above and beyond that is considered profit and or a gain. And naturally, depending on how long you hold that property, you would have to pay taxes on that gain. And so if you hold it for more than 2 out of 5 years and it's less than a certain dollar amount, depending on if you're single or married, in that point I was single, then I was able to take my portion of that gain and I was not having to worry about paying taxes on it because I held it the appropriate amount of time according to IRS rules. It was under the dollar amount. And so with that, I was able to then take that money, not have to pay taxes on it because I followed the IRS rules, and then now reinvest that into purchasing additional assets and now starting the building of a portfolio based on, again, that foundation of being able to have that property now justify making income. So hopefully that helps, right? Never avoid taxes. We love our friends at the IRS.
Thank you for that explanation. We have another question in the chat, and it's right now, home purchases are so competitive and many feel they need to have more than the basic down payment to get in the game. Can you tell us how to increase our down payment? Also, do you feel it is appropriate to tap into your, say, 401k to do so?
So really great question. So again, I would say the biggest thing that I want you to focus on as far as tapping into more. So when you say tapping into more, some banks, right, because of what we know took place back in 2008 and all, the things that took place in the real estate environment back then, many banks are, gotten leery naturally for all the right reasons. And as we think about even our COVID environment of last year, jobs that were lost because of it, and now we're like, it's weird, like now there's all these jobs in demand. It's just a very interesting environment. But banks and lenders are looking at credit very, very seriously. And so it's not really almost about the money you have, it's about your credit and your history of how you spend and how responsible you are with money. So what I have found is I have seen people get access to credit with little to no quote unquote money, but they have excellent borrowing history and credit responsible practices that will allow an underwriter to look at them differently. Now, if you don't have that type of history or can't explain that, that's where then you tend to have to come to the table with a little bit more meat in the game, if you know what I mean, right? They're going to want to see your balance sheet. They're going to want to, any lender, again, if I'm a lender and I'm saying I'm going to give access to my capital, I need to understand the wherewithal of you repaying that debt. And so part of that is looking at credit history. We like to see nowadays banks want to see over 700 credit score, right? If you're dropping below 700, that's a bit of a red flag that you're going to have to explain. And so it's really about, before you start going out and just grabbing hold of cash and capital, let's take a step back. How responsible have you been in the past with how you've managed capital? Are you responsible for managing debt? Because how you manage debt is going to demonstrate how well you manage wealth. And that's really, again, what we just talked about, the story of being able to borrow that money, buy the house, sell it at a capital gain. But then once that, so that was proper way of managing that debt. But then once you now get access to the cash, how do you then now manage that wealth? That's only going to come by way of managing your debt properly. So I don't know if I answered your question by way. It's not about how do I get access to other capital. I'm not big a proponent of borrowing against your future. I'm just not. I mean, emergencies happen and you have to make decisions. And sometimes those decisions do require you to potentially tap into your retirement, but it's something that I am not necessarily ever going to recommend. And because it's a dangerous cycle. And I've unfortunately seen too many people that tap in and they never put it back in. So I'll just say it like that, it's like, they grab from it, but they never replace it, or they don't replace it at the speed, or we tap in at the wrong time, right? We tap in when the market is down. And the worst thing you want to do is borrow against your 401k if the market's in a down cycle, because now you borrowed at a low. And then if it goes back to a high cycle, you're repaying it at a high. And the first rule of investing is buy low, sell high, right? And so that's why, again, I never want you to tap into your future unless you have to. Unless you have to buy that home because, you're like about to be homeless or something, like don't tap into your future to do that, right? There's other strategies and other mechanisms to get you to that place where you can still have your retirement working really hard for you and get the home of your dreams and take advantage of these interest rates and, again, not have to worry about putting up additional capital. Let's start by making sure you have a plan with how you're going to repay your debt and have a debt repayment strategy.
Thank you. And the next question is, I am a good saver. However, how much do I need to save? Also, I'm nervous about investing. What advice would you give me about investing beyond my 401k?
All right, I love that question. So let's start with saving. How much should I save? I have a little jingle. Y'all ready? So my little jingle goes: give, save, spend. So win, 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 in that order. So what I mean by that is, before you even think about spending money, I'm talking about like before you even think about it, I want that when that money comes in, the first thing I want you to do is, how much am I putting away to give? Give comes first, because when you give and when you save first, when you make that a first priority, no matter what happens in life, this is always going to be over here working for you. So what happens is that I remember last year I took a sabbatical year because, who didn't want to take a sabbatical year last year? And so, God had it in his plan for me. And thank God that I practice what I preach, because I give and save first. Then I spend on the difference. But because, I decided to take a sabbatical year, the money that was coming in kind of went to a boop. But we know about that sabbatical year. The beautiful thing is, because I practice give, save, then spend, that give and save had to work for me last year. And it did. All right. And so what I mean by that is, how much should you give and save is truly how much you choose to spend. And my rule of thumb always says at the very least 10, 10, 80, meaning give 10%, save 10%, and figure out how you're going to live on the duration, which is the 80. For those in the advanced course, for some of my major donors, they have gotten to a place now where they literally live off of 10% and invest and save the rest. That's the advanced course. But for those of us that are really just trying to get that muscle built, at the end of the day, the first muscle I want you to remember is that when that dollar comes in, the first thing you do is you take 20 cents out the door and you live off 80 cents. And when you get into that muscle memory, the other part will always be there, because that is a seed that will always be a harvest working for you when this other side dries up. So trust me when I tell you, there's no rule of thumb, but to do it, to do it, and to do it in that order is what I would say. And then what was the other question as far as investing and having some fears around getting?
Yeah, just a little bit nervous about investing. So what advice would you give to me about investing beyond, say, a 401k?
Absolutely. I think that, what's so beautiful about, like, let's just put the little investing word aside for me, because that can sound kind of scary. It's very, it's got a, sometimes depending on how you look at it, has a good rap to it, it has a bad rap to it. So let's just put investing away for a minute. And let's use the word vision. Because when I think about ultimately, why are you investing? It's because hopefully you have a vision. And so as I think about the Cory Booker story, let's go back there to his father and the testimony that he had even through the test of going and spending money to purchase a home in a high net worth neighborhood because he had a vision that on the other side of that, he would be able to send Cory to an amazing school and then be able to use that income to retire on and live out the rest of his days. So it starts by having a vision. And I think when I help clients like myself, like clients that work with us, it's how do you articulate or vision your future? What does that look like? And then ultimately, how do you feel like you're doing as it relates to truly building the bricks to get you to that vision? What are you doing to get there? So if one of your visions is to retire, well, that's great, but what does that look like? Who are you with? Where are you at? What are you drinking? What are you eating? Are you at a museum? Paint that thing out beautifully and walk me through that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, great. How are we getting there? How do we get on that next plane to that vision? And then when we start to really think about how we get on that next plane to get you to that vision, that's now where the technical side comes in. And that's why you hire professionals to help you really sort through that and get you on that pathway and be your escort to get you to that vision. And that's where investing comes in. Investing, I want us to almost look at investing. It's like somebody the other day reminded me of expenses versus investing. I said, well, I don't look at that as an expense. I look at that as an investment. Because when I'm investing, as an example, I was sharing this with my friend the other day about crypto. I'm like, that's a whole different conversation. We'll talk about it at a follow-up. But I said, but when you're investing in the, call it stock market, really what you're doing is you're saying, I'm participating in being an owner in the everyday economy of the USA. At the very least, I'm participating in being a part owner of some of the largest companies that are, when I go to Walmart, if I'm an investor in Walmart, those employees are part of my portfolio. So it makes me a proud Walmart shopper. When I look around, if I see trash, I'm like the type of person that will pick it up because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm an owner of this company. When I see trash, if they don't want to invest here, they're going to go somewhere else and that's going to reduce my value. So it becomes a mindset that when you are an owner, the homeowner, a stock owner, you treat things differently. You spend money differently. You invest differently. You don't look at it. So that's what I want you to think about as an investor. It shouldn't be scary. It should be exciting because you're now owning what you already buy. Do you go to Walmart? Anybody? Anybody go to Amazon? Anybody? Anybody got an Apple? Anybody? Anybody go to BP to fill up their gas? Anybody got a Ford? So if you purchase these things, how exciting is it to also own them as well? And to say every time I go to Starbucks and buy my coffee, I can get excited because that dividend payment that's coming out next quarter, yeah, that's going to come in my bank account because I'm also an owner of the same company that I'm also supporting as a consumer. So it's the cycle, right? What you put out comes back to you. So don't let investing scare you. Seek the advice of a professional like myself and my colleague, Monica Black, and so many others out here that are here to help you understand how to start. There's beautiful, what they call exchange traded funds and very easy ways to just get started so that you own a broad base of the overall, what we call market or index, so that you own a little piece of the market, a little piece of Ford, a little piece of McDonald's, a little piece of Starbucks, but you can say, I participate in that. And then once you get access to owning and you start to see the benefit of what it means to own, the capital gains, the income, and all of that comes along with being an owner, you'll start seeing it's much more exciting to be an investor than it is scary. It's scarier to be in debt, trust me, much scarier to be in debt than it is to be an investor. And so I would much rather you, instead of filling out loan applications to get in debt, I want you to fill out investment applications to become an investor. All right?
Thank you. Another question is, I recently went through a divorce and my husband handled our finances. I'm a little frightened. What advice would you give to someone who's not accustomed to running or handling their finances?
Ooh, I guess so. We can keep going on and on and on. So thank you, first of all. Yes, I know so many, there's so many stats right now. Women are poised to really control the majority of the wealth in the United States by way of what you just described. Unfortunately, death, divorce, and other things that are happening. So women are starting to become truly in control, but yet, to your point, some of them have not been in control of the finances in the household. Maybe not the breadwinners, or maybe their husbands were responsible for making sure the portfolios were created, the bills were paid, etc. I remember one of my very first clients back when I first became an advisor was a recent divorcee. She was married to a very wealthy individual that paid all the bills. And so when they got a divorce, she had never even reconciled a checking account. She didn't know how to use a debit card. I had to show her how to literally go to the ATM and plug in her PIN number to get money out. Not a lot of money, but show her how to be on a budget, because that was her life now. She no longer had his credit card, right? She had to now live on a budget based on the alimony payment that she was going to be getting only for 5 years. So life had literally shifted for this recent divorcee. But what she did, which was smart, is she came into the bank and she asked for help. And what we did was we surrounded her with the right resources. We made sure she had a banker, an investment, a financial advisor, a mortgage lender, and we made sure that we helped her step by step understand how to budget that balance sheet and how to purchase her next home. So the thing about it is that if you don't know what to do, being at meetings like this, right, is a first step. I didn't know what to do when I first became a homeowner. I didn't know what to do when I first became an investor, even though I was even in the business, right? But I surrounded myself with the right tools, resources, and people to get the help. So we are here to help. I know we're limited and budgeted on time, but if you are a recent divorcee, if I've dealt with them, I'm very, very familiar with recent divorcees. That's one of my, I guess, areas of expertise right now. I tend to attract a lot of them because many of them are asking, what do I now do? This is a whole new chapter and they need help. And there's a lot of things that recent divorcees need to understand as it relates to how their next chapter is going to be. And it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. That's what's so beautiful about it. The recent divorcee, even though she got divorced, she ended up a homeowner. She got remarried to a better man. And she ended up, and we took her portfolio and we made it work for her. Now she's now living her best life. She's got unearned income, taking care of the bills. She's with her new man, and she's literally enjoying now a lifestyle that's making her happy, mind, body, soul, spirit, and financially. So wealth is so much more than the pocketbook, right? It's about the lifestyle that you're creating as well. So I will leave it at that, we're here to help. Again, Alexander Legacy is my firm. I'm so excited to be able to work with anyone like you, or, frankly, anyone that just wants to continue this conversation, because I know we've got so much to talk about. I've got my colleague who's going to take it to the next level, because once you attract this wealth, right, we've got to figure out how to not only keep it, but how we're going to transfer it to the next generation, because that's a part of us changing this conversation from the racial wealth gap. When we can now I'll leave it with another stat from that video. She said one of the ladies from the video, Unexplained, and I want to say this because I think this also ties into an earlier point. In the white neighborhood, her parents bought at the same time the house for $14,000. That same home today is worth $600,000. Let me repeat, that house bought at $14,000, worth $600,000 today. We have to make sure that we're not losing these lessons from our legacy. They're there to teach us. They're there to make sure that we don't feel like we have to reinvent the wheel. So again, thank you so much for your time. I don't know if there's any more questions, but lots of things to discuss. Great, great, great time right now to continue to educate yourself, continue to surround yourself with wise counsel, but most importantly, none of it matters if you don't implement. So that's where the real magic happens.
Thank you so much, Jack. That was awesome. We had some very good questions there, and the conversation could go on for quite some time, because I think that the things that you've touched upon, it seems like the primary thing is definitely just getting in the game and protecting the wealth that we have. And we're looking forward to the next dialogue to talk about that. We want to thank you. Can everyone give Jack a round of applause? We thank you. We're giving you the video version of an applause. We greatly appreciate all that you do. And thank you so much. We actually, I would also like to share with you a donation that we will make. We will put that slide up briefly. All right, beautiful. All right, so we wanted to make you aware of a donation that we'll make. We're calling this section Plant a Seed. So every day of the financial series that we have, we will be giving a donation that's very targeted for the specific purpose of closing the wealth gap. Delta Sigma Theta will make a donation to the FinServe Foundation. We'll sow a seed of $1,000, and those funds will go, that contribution will go toward funding coaching and wealth management internships for HBCU students. We're happy to make that donation, and we thank Jacqueline for her contribution today, and also for the fact that she actually is one of the board members and does a great job. And they are going to have 30 internships this summer to be able to help change the game. And so we're happy to be a small part of making that happen. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we greatly appreciate, I know we were hitting you with fire with questions, but everyone had such good dialogue, and I'm sure we probably could have kept questions open for a little while longer, but we thank you so much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it. At this time, we want to reward the audience for their attention span so far. We've been here for about 45 minutes. And so we are going to give out some prizes. I know everyone likes to win prizes, right? And so I'm going to turn the mic over to my soror, Danielle Battle, and she's going to lead us in a prize drawing. And so everyone's name has been entered if you're on the call. So we will now turn the screen over to Danielle. There we go. All right, so we're going to spin. Is that correct, Danielle? Are you going to walk us through this? You're spinning now? Okay. Kimberly Hamilton, woo woo! All right, Kimberly, I know you're on the call here, but you are our winner. Danielle, are you going to tell them what they're winning today? Danielle's not talking. Okay, I do know that it's an assortment of financial planning books that we got to be able to help you better navigate the economic game. And so congratulations to Kimberly Hamilton. We are very excited, and we will make sure we have your email address, and we will get with you to give you the prizes that you have won today. Kimberly is in our sister chapter, so she's just lucky, lucky, lucky today. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We will have another drawing at the end, but at this time we will move forward in the agenda. We will now play the next video, and then after that, Alicia will introduce our next speaker.
So I read an interesting article about an African-American family in Chicago that's dealing with the recent loss of their mother. In 1986, when the mother purchased her home, she had visions of buying a home and accumulating wealth over the course of the years. And she did. She built up equity in her home. The problem was when she passed away, her family found out that she didn't have a will. The courts had to get involved, and as a result of legal fees, court fees associated with the probate process, she lost over $80,000 of equity in this home. What's tragic is in this country, 70% of African Americans die without a will. What that simply means is we're not able to accumulate generational wealth from generation to generation. So what we should take away from this article is it's important that we plan our estates, because if we don't, we're not going to be in a position to be able to solidify our financial futures and establish a legacy for generations to come.
Wow. I have to settle down. This has been such great information so far. And I have the honor and the privilege of introducing Monica Black, Regional Vice President at Prime America Financial Services. Sorwar Black is a native of Indianapolis, Indiana. She relocated to Cincinnati after graduating from Central State University, where she received an accounting degree. Sorwar Black is a CPA, and her passion is advising families how to properly plan for their financial future to build wealth. And that's what we're talking about today. She has been working in the financial field for over 25 years. Ms. Black has been a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Inc. for 29 years and is a proud member of CAC DST. Thank you, and please help me to welcome Monica Black.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm very excited to talk with you all today. I get the privilege to talk about keeping your wealth. Many times we know how to build it, but keeping it is a completely different story. So what I'm going to do is share my screen and share with you a presentation, and we'll start from here. Everybody needs a will. It doesn't matter if you're single, if you're married, if you have assets, if you don't have assets. When you don't have a will, it puts undue stress on the family, and they're already sad that that person has passed away. So a will, it can be handwritten. It just needs to have two people that can observe that. You can get it from the internet, right? It's easy to do so. Just download it, pay a small fee. You just need two witnesses, doesn't have to be notarized, or you can go see an attorney and have it written for you. So everyone has access to a will, but the question is, why don't people have one? And number one is that they didn't get around to it. It was on the priority list for 5 years, but they just did not get around to it, right? Or number two, they didn't want to talk about it. Talking about estate planning, talking about passing away is not always exciting to people. People think they're going to die, but guess what? We are, you know? We all know our birth date, but we don't know our death date. And because we don't know our death date, then that means we're going to have to do whatever we have to do to make sure that everything is in order. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to probate court before, but it is not the place to go. $300 in Ohio just to file. But if spouses are passed away and you have siblings, and the siblings don't always get along, right? You can be in probate court for a while. You have to have an attorney, which means there are more fees, and of course, you're stressed out. Now, say if a couple passes away, right? It usually goes to the person that is alive, but what happens if it's a blended family? What happens if there are unique circumstances? It's complicated. Do you know that the court can appoint a stranger to handle your loved one's assets? A stranger. Who wants that? And your assets can be frozen for 2 years. So if you need that money, it's just there. 2 years. So have that will, make sure that things are outlined. When you do your to-do list, put it at the top of the list, put it in your phone, right? Make sure that you're planning appropriately for your future and have that will. Now, there's also a trust. I am not an attorney, so I just want to tell everyone that, and I am not an expert in trust. But I tell you that when you do have it, it can make sure that estate taxes are avoided. Who wants to pay taxes? As Jack said, nobody wants to pay taxes, right? And it will also help you avoid probate court. Stay away from probate court, okay? Should I have a will or a trust? Well, a will lays out wishes after you die. And one thing that I want to mention also, if you have children and the couple passes away, you don't have that will, your children become wards of the state, even if someone's going to take care of them. Who wants their child to become a ward of the state? So you want to make sure that that is taken care of. Now, a trust, it can be effective immediately, right? And if the loved one passes away, a successor trustee, they can step in right then and there. Will or trust is really up to you to decide, but I tell you what, at a very bare minimum, you should have a will. Long-term care. Have any of you experienced long-term care before, or having a loved one, that's there? Long-term care, it costs a whole lot of money, and it can help zap away all of your hard-earned money. Long-term care costs, when I looked it up today for Ohio, you can get $4,000 a month or pay $4,000 a month. But my father had Alzheimer's and it cost $7,000 a month. That's a whole lot of money. But if you have long-term care insurance, it's not that large amount of money. If a person does not have long-term care insurance, they make you pay down, spend all of your money, right? And there's a 5-year look back period. So you just can't go giving away your money real quick. There is a 5-year look back period, and then they give you a small stipend, your loved one a small stipend, every month, which is completely crazy. If Medicaid pay for it, guess what? You still have to have that period in which you have to take away your assets, but then you have to find a Medicaid bed. All facilities don't have a Medicaid bed. And I know in our community, we always want to keep our loved ones with us. That's how we have our tribe. That's how we have our family. But if you're not able to do that, then you want to make sure that you have long-term care insurance, especially if you have assets. If you're under 50, you can get long-term care insurance, but it's going to cost you the price of a 50-year-old. Okay, so I just wanted to share that information with you about long-term care insurance, and then talk about life insurance. Life insurance is designed to protect lost income and not to protect a life. Designed to protect lost income and not protect a life. And I know from my experience with my family, we weren't taught about protecting lost income. We were taught about burial and funeral expenses. And so what would happen, the insurance person would come knocking on the door once a month, you give him donuts, coffee, whatever, they take the money, and then it's a wrap and you go on. But if you have a family, is burial insurance going to take care of everything? And the answer is no, it isn't. Now, there are different types. There's term, there's whole, there's universal, variable life, variable universal life. Whatever is best for you is what you should have, because everyone has different needs. I personally recommend term life insurance to the families that I work with. And the reason why is because you can get a whole lot more coverage for less cost, and it also gives you an opportunity to invest money. So I would say buy term insurance, invest your money. And primarily, whatever's going to be the best vehicle for you, but usually it's mutual funds for me. Buy term, invest your money, so therefore you have more control. But it's up to you with whatever your lifestyle is going to be, and whatever your insurance person recommends for you. Now, this is not life insurance. GoFundMe. Have any of you seen this before? Yeah, you know, if you're on Facebook, or I know when I'm on Facebook, Instagram, this always seems to pop up, a GoFundMe. If it's not GoFundMe, it could be a bake sale, what, a spaghetti dinner, a car wash, a t-shirt sale. You know, that's not going to help out with protecting lost income that may or may not, all depending on who you are, just pay for burial expenses. So we want to make sure that we educate others to make sure that they get insurance. And people don't like to talk about insurance, again, because they believe they are going to die, right? Because we are. Now, how much life insurance do I need if I'm keeping my wealth? Well, there are 4 key areas that you should always look at. One is debt. Do you want your debt paid off? Some people do, some people don't. Income. If there is lost income, how much money do you need to have coming in to have the exact same quality? Dependent child and you pay prematurely, do you want to make sure they get a higher education? Right? And so the acronym that I use is called DIME. It's really easy for me to understand and remember: debt, income, mortgage, and expenses. Is my internet acting okay?
It's good now.
It's good now. Okay. I saw an unstable. So I apologize for that. So family, each $3,500 the household. And every month they have mortgage, they have cars, car payments, insurance, credit cards, utilities, groceries, child. And this doesn't even take into consideration going out and having fun, right? Some entertainment. But what happens if he's gone? A person is gone. What will the quality of life be? I still have $7,000 in bills, but I only have half of the income. So we need to make sure that that is being addressed. And if you don't want to think about the dime, then how about multiplying your income between 5 to 10 times? So if someone depends on your money, multiply your income between 5 to 10 times, and then that'll help determine how much coverage you should need to have. I also want to talk about group insurance, and I didn't put a group life insurance, did not put a slide in here for that, but many times that's what a lot of people rely on. They don't have coverage outside of their job, but there's some key points that should always be remembered as relates to group life insurance. One is if you are on FMLA, you are not considered an active employee. With an active employee, the company, it pays out. If you have health insurance, they have to pay the health insurance, but they do not have to pay life insurance, okay? Another thing is with retirement, it typically is not a retirement benefit. So should you get life insurance when you're younger or when you're older? And it would be when you're younger, right? Because you are more healthy. If you get furloughed, downsized, right-sized, reorganized, whatever in the world the case may be, guess what's not in existence? That life insurance. You have to be considered an active employee again, active. And the question that I ask everyone is, who is the owner of that group coverage at your job? And it's called the employer, They own it. Did they give you a life insurance policy? Did they give you a certificate? No, that benefit can be taken quickly. And most people now, they change jobs every 7 to 10 years. So if I'm not there for a long period of time, if I'm going to the next employer, that may not be a benefit at all. So keeping that in mind. So general rule of thumb, always have coverage outside of your job. Generational wealth. Okay. How can you create it? One is through life insurance, right? Have you ever heard of old money before? Of course. Well, how does the money get old? It's transferred down from generation to generation. Most people, or maybe I should start with most wealthy people, they plan for their children's children. Regular people or just people in general, they plan for tomorrow. And that's it, you know? And if there is not, what was I going to say? Oh, there's going to be a generational wealth transfer from the baby boomers to Gen X, to the millennials, and to Gen Z. If a person does not know what to do with their money, what do you think they're going to do with it? They're going to spend it, right? They're going to spend it with a quickness, you know, and then it's called broke, 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 and more broke. So it's generational brokenness. And so we want to make sure, especially like, you know, Jack had said, you have to save and invest your money, okay? And investing besides your money, what about having property? That's investing, commercial, residential, so that you will always have a stream of wealth that's coming into your household. Imagine if you were passed away and you look at the mantle and there's a big picture of you, right? You get a very big picture in your household when there is generational wealth transfer. You might be in the living room, right? If there's not generational wealth transfer. That was a joke, but but nevertheless, savings and investings. And then I just wanted to end with this in terms of keeping your wealth. Have a financial planner, or at least speak to a financial planner, right? People that have wealth, they have a financial planner, right? Sometimes it may cost $500 to $1,000. Sometimes it's complimentary, but at least make sure that you get in contact with us, or, well, I said us. And another one, you may not want to hear about it, but it's called Act Your Wage. I didn't say your age, I said your wage. So if I earn $100,000, my lifestyle should not be of $150,000, right? If I earn $50,000, my lifestyle shouldn't be that of $100,000. And it's very easy to get caught up. I was just telling a family that I was working with, they like to spend money, and money, you have to spend some of it. You can't hoard it all. But if you add it up, the amount of money that is spent on ladies getting our hair done, right? Say if we go twice a week, I'd love to go twice a week, but twice a month, okay? That might be what, 100, 120 bucks? And then it's warmer. We have what, our nails maybe to take care of. Say we get our eyebrows waxed. So with all of that, say if it's $300 for upkeep, are you investing $300 a month or more? And if the answer is no, then that means some adjustments have to be made so that we can act within our wage. Another area, like Jack had mentioned, is paying yourself first, of course, to God, right? But then we have to pay ourselves. Typically, especially as women, we pay everybody else first and we hope something is left over. Guess what? Usually there is nothing left over. And so getting into the habit of doing that, it makes a significant difference in keeping your wealth. And then lastly, reducing your debt. I call debt a financial disease. because so many people have it and it is very easy to catch. I don't know about you, but I get so many credit card offers each week. Not every day, but each week, which is ridiculous. If I didn't have any control, I could open up that envelope real quick, get on the internet, and it's a wrap. Or your credit card companies may be automatically increasing your credit limit because you are a star customer, right? If you didn't have any control, guess what? Debt, here we come. So if I have a whole lot of debt, how can I really save and invest how I should be? I'm not. And there's nothing like outliving your income. Women, we live longer than men do. And if we have, let's say, $600,000 that's saved up for our retirement, and we take out entirely too much and start doing the things that haven't been recommended, we're only going to have this kind of money. And if you are Gen X or below, Social Security is designed to run out of money in 2034. So what is it going to look like? I don't know, but I do know that you have to save and invest your money continually because you are worth it. You deserve it. And you want to live your best life now and also make sure that your family has its best life when you're not here. So I'm open for questions.
Excellent. We'll open the floor up for questions at this time. If you would like to put your questions in the chat, and then we have an individual who will read those questions out loud.
I have a question. Monica, do you suggest, and you covered this briefly a little bit, but do you suggest that I use a will or a trust? Which one do you prefer?
Okay. I would say in actuality, there should be both. So a will is going to outline your wishes when you pass away and who's going to take care of your kids. And to make sure that whatever assets, say if you have a fur coat or things of that nature, that it goes to who you want to go with. Now with a trust, usually if you have $100,000 or more of assets and you want to make sure that they are protected, then you want to have that also. It avoids taxes. So the beneficiary can be the trust, which avoids taxes. And I just want to add one more thing that I just realized I wanted to mention. There's something called planned giving. And I don't know how often it is talked about, but what that is making sure that when you pass away, there are organizations that get a portion of your money. So for example, with me, my beneficiaries besides my husband is my school, Central State, and also Delta. And it really doesn't cost a lot of money at all. But if you're going to keep your wealth, don't you want to keep it in your community? It makes a big difference. And many times we don't think about that. So that is planned giving. So that's a side note. I just thought about it.
Thank you for answering that. Another question we have, is there a good time to pay off a mortgage loan early?
Well, that is a great question. And there are a variety of, well, I'll say yes, there's always a great time to pay off your mortgage. It's just a matter of where you're getting the money to pay the mortgage from. So sometimes people want to take all of their retirement monies and pay off their mortgage. That's called not a good thing. But you can come up with a game plan, usually working with debt stacking, paying off one debt at a time, and ultimately having a lot of money that you can put towards that mortgage. You don't necessarily have to have a 30-year loan, right? You can have a 20-year loan. And then all depending on if you're making extra payments, see if your bank or whatever institution will re-amortize your payment every time you make one. And so if it's re-amortized, you're going to end up paying less interest and you're going to get that, that debt paid off much faster.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that. Another question. Is it possible to get affordable insurance after the age of 50?
Oh, definitely, because I'm 51. So yes, it is very, very possible, but very cost effective. The question would be about my health. Do I have health issues? Which makes a big difference. Also, I want to mention COVID. Some companies aren't even offering insurance due to COVID, or they're going to make you wait a period of time before you can actually apply. If you're a smoker, smokers pay twice as much. That's just, what the underwriters state. But no, insurance doesn't have to be expensive at all.
Thank you so much for answering my question. Why is life insurance not included in the discussion of wealth creation?
Well, if it's at home, usually it's never been talked about over the kitchen table. And many families, and that's just not life insurance, that's money in general, because it's determined to be grown folks' business. So the question is, when do I get to be a grown folk and when am I going to learn? So that would be one thing. Now, if you're meeting with the financial planner, I'm hoping that they would, talk about that. They may not be able to implement a solution, but would be able to redirect you to someone that would be able to take care of that for you. But life insurance is very, very essential. And again, I would say with the families that I work with or don't work with sometimes, it's the fear talking about it. I mean, it really is. And it's not, it's necessary, may not be exciting, but if you don't do it, what's going to happen? Your family is just going to be stuck. And then here comes the GoFundMe or family members trying to put money together. I don't know if you're the go-to person in your household, but be a bit if you're always the go-person. Can give education to people in terms of how life insurance really works in general. If that can be communicated and talked about consistently, then it would be talked about with the financial planning.
Okay, Monica, the next question is, what is the best path to purchase life insurance from the company provided by your employer? So for example, a supplemental life insurance policy, or should you purchase life insurance from a different provider?
Okay, and so great question. So if it's supplemental, the question would be, are you the owner of that policy? Or are you just purchasing additional coverage from that or from that company? So that would be number one. But I would always recommend to have coverage outside of your job so that you have the control. When you have the control, it really doesn't matter. And make sure that there is no gap in coverage. I know sometimes times might be a tad bit tough, but just like you want to pay your mortgage, you want to make sure that you pay your insurance, even if you have to decrease it to whatever amount. At least you know you have it, and that you have it when you're healthy and don't have to requalify.
Next question. What is your thought about reverse mortgages? Are they good? Are they bad? Can you give us some insight around that?
Well, I would say stay away, because usually what happens is that companies target the seniors because they may know that they need money and may not always want to go to their children. And so with the reverse mortgage, you're giving away the equity in your home, a big percentage. And then when you pass away, it goes away. And there are different options. I would say if there could be a family discussion in terms of how there could be other ways in which there can be a money coming into that person, then do that. But please don't go towards that reverse mortgage. If you want to get a loan to take out equity in that house, then that's one thing. But just giving away your property is not something that I would recommend.
Excellent. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. I couldn't tell. Monica, thank you so much. I think actually several of the questions were mine. I'm going to be real transparent. I needed to know some things and you were telling answers, so I want to go ahead and get my answers told. We thank you so much for sharing, and I probably need to call you offline because I have some more questions as well. I think that this conversation has sort of stirred, at least in me, and I hope in others on the call, a desire to continue the dialogue and to make sure that all of our finances and all of our paperwork is in order, because we work too hard to allow it to not go on to the next generation. And so we want to make sure that that happens. Can we give Monica a round of applause, an internet Zoom round of applause? That's how you do that. All right, there we go. All right. Thank you so much. Monica, we thank you so much for your time. Your information has been invaluable today. And so we definitely want to thank you. At this time, we are going to go to give away some more prizes. And subsequently, they have shared with me what the prizes are. And so I have a picture of those. I'm going to share those with you briefly. So the first group, you won a Becoming book by Michelle Obama, and another book that's a financial book that says Your Money, I can't see the total title, and also a Joseph Beth book gift card. Alrighty, so we're going to spin again, and this time this person is going to win the book 10 Pillars of Wealth, as well as the book Lead from Outside, which is written by Stacey Abrams, as well as a Joseph Beth book gift card as well. And so we'll our Danielle Battle will spin the wheel at this time. All righty, Tawana Wilson, you are the winner of our second prize. Congratulations. All right. We love to give things away around here. That's sort of the nature of our chapter. So Tawana, you are our winner, and Kimberly, you are our first winner. So we will make sure we get your prizes to you. And we thank everyone for staying on the line. We do have a couple of announcements before we bid you adieu. And so at this point, Brianna's going to put up the next slide, and our Sora Alicia Townsend is going to share some information with you.
Thank you, Madam President. And we want to welcome each and every one of you to our next two sessions in our wealth series, Building and Protecting Home Equity, that will take place on Sunday, June 13th at 3 p.m. And Delta's own version of Shark Tank, the Delta Pitch Competition, will be taking place on Thursday, June 17th. Applications are available on our cacdst.org website and on our Cincinnati Alumnae Chapter DST Facebook page, as well as on Instagram. So if you know a small business that is located in the greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, please encourage them to apply for the Delta Pitch Competition. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you so much, Alicia. And even the prizes that are listed here, we have been very blessed, and we have some additional donors. So we're actually going to be increasing the amount. So we're really excited about that. But if you know someone who's had a business that's been up and running at least 2 years, please encourage them to apply. We're hoping to have an abundance of applications, and it will be a great show. And there will also be audience participation. So join us that day so that you can vote for the person that you'd like to win our first ever, our inaugural, we're hoping, Delta Pitch Competition. We thank you so much. We know that you could have been many places this evening, but we appreciate that you spent your evening with us. We thank our speakers again for elevating our financial acumen today and allowing us all to take notes about some things. If you're like me, you're writing down a few notes of some things that you need to take care in your personal life to make sure that we elevate as we all desire to close the wealth gap. Have a blessed and fabulous weekend, and thank you again for coming. Bye-bye. All right, Soros. It looks like it's just family at this point. And Jacqueline, thank you so much for coming. We greatly appreciate it. Monica, you both were excellent. I think it came together extremely well. I think that the pass-offs went great and you guys filled in space is awesome. So I think our pre-planning worked, right? And you had a lot of questions, which was good, right? So I think that the format went well. How does everyone else think it went?
I think it went very well. It was awesome.
Good. Excellent. All right, and then the other good piece is that, Jack, a lot of what you referred to related to real estate we'll be covering in our next segment. So I think that also will help fill some of those gaps. We have someone from Fifth Third Bank that's going to come and talk about programs that they have to help people get in the game as it relates to real estate. And then we have a whole panel that's going to talk about protecting the wealth of your property and making sure you're getting full value so that you can get to that $600,000 that you talked about, because that's important, right? And I don't think everyone knows. I mean, you buy the house, but if you've not been a homeowner before, you don't really know how to tap into that equity or protect that equity, that kind of thing. And so we are going to have a speaker that's going to speak to that in the next session. So I think that's great. We had 42 people, well, 43 at the top. So I think that was pretty good considering this one we only had a week to promote. We'll have more time to promote the other two events. And then the goal is that the pitch competition, we have at least 100 people on the call for the pitch competition is the goal. So get the word out, spread it, share it with other people, encourage people to come. The pitch competition, they get to vote. So you want to be on the line, right? If your person is going to be pitching, you want to make sure you're there to be able to bring that home. So anyone other feedback or comments, think something we can do better in the next segment?
Madam President, I would just like to add, if we have videos, to share the links of the videos or anything in the chat so that we can all write it down or click it.
Enjoy those later. And I saw your message, but I couldn't switch screens. So to do that, we will do that for the next segment. And I will make sure that I send you both of those videos, the Netflix video, because the Netflix series is a very good series. So I would encourage everyone to watch that on their own time, definitely. But we will make sure we send those to you. That's good feedback. And we'll make sure we do that on the next segment because we will have videos each time. Alicia has cautioned me about making our own video when there's such good content already out there on YouTube. And I do listen. So we're going to roll with that. All righty. Alicia, thank you for jumping in at the 9th hour. I know that wasn't the plan, but we had to adjust, and everyone keep Sora Ranice's family in prayer as they head to the emergency room, okay? And I will check on her this evening. I'll call you offline, Crystal, and fill you in. So the teamwork makes the dream work. Everything came together. The prize giveaway went wonderful. I think it's hilarious the two Soras won, though. That was not the plan. But I couldn't say, no, she gave it because we said we would allow it. So we're going to roll with it, right? So it is what it is. At least one person wasn't from our chapter. She's the other chapter. So, hey, so we'll make sure that they get their prizes. And then Danielle, you'll take care of contacting both of them to give them their items, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then we're going to give out stuff each time. So we'll do that same process and that worked smoothly. So I liked it. And the only thing is we need to be able to tell them the prizes at the beginning, but we fixed that. So it wasn't a big deal. Alrighty, so Shorter, so good to see you this evening. Alrighty, I do believe without further ado, everyone can have their evening back then. Alrighty, Jack, thank you so much. I still need the invoice to be able to send you the money for the $1,000 donation, okay? They don't let me cut checks just to cut checks. I gotta have some paperwork.
I got it, Mama.
Okay, all right.
I so appreciate it. Thank you
okay.
so much. I'll have the foundation send that over. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate you joining us. It was a wealth of information. We greatly appreciate it. And I will make sure I share that with Beatrice. She sends her love. She's moving today.
I know.
I said, Jack's moving too. She's like, I know. So she couldn't be here because I was going to have her introduce you, but she couldn't do that. So she asked me to send her love to you and she'll talk to you offline. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Soros. I appreciate it. Committee, you've been awesome. And we got one thing checked. We're going to get the next one. It's going to be even more people on that call. So I'm really excited. So make sure you invite 5 friends and we'll have a bigger crowd next time. All righty. I'm going to go do some workout now because Shahir is my accountability partner. She'll be calling me next week and I don't want to have to make up a tale. Okay. All righty. Everyone have a great day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Love you all.